Well, welcome to Ottawa Business Journal's coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Michael Curran, publisher of the Ottawa Business Journal. OBJ is conducting a series of video panel discussions with local business experts. In this video, we will address an issue that's top of mind for many business owners and operators, the issue of commercial real estate. Many businesses have been completely interrupted or experienced dramatic revenue declines like never before. That leaves many of them asking, how can I pay my rent? In this panel, we'll take a look at commercial real estate as it pertains mostly to offices. And once again, we've got a great panel. I'm going to introduce them now. First off, we have Martin Ose, Managing Principal and Broker at Cressa Commercial Real Estate. Hello, Martin.
Hi, Mike. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for joining us. And next, we have Michael Church, Principal and Managing Director at Avison Young. Hello, Michael.
Morning, Michael.
And last but certainly not least, we've got Sean Hamilton, the Senior Vice President, Managing Director at CBRE. Hello, Sean.
Hi, Michael.
Martin, let's kick off with you. And you're a little bit unique on this panel because Cressa, as people might know, deals only with tenants. So it doesn't deal with landlords in terms of, I guess I should say, representing them. You represent tenants only. So let's start off with a tenant perspective here, Martin. What are you hearing from your tenant clients?
So the smoke is still clearing. That's one thing for sure. What I would say is, everything I say is probably going to change within a few days because it seems like things are evolving, like in every industry. In real estate, it's evolving quickly. I think the positive that we see is, for the most part, our tenants are they're continuing. So if they're in the middle of a negotiation, in the middle of a tour of potential locations, in the middle of a discussion with the current landlord about a renewal or a decision whether they're renewing or leaving, they are continuing those discussions. I think rightly, people realize that the lease ends on whatever date. At least it ends in 6 months, and no matter what's happening today, you need to really deal with that. So, and I would say what we're seeing out there with our clients is they're keeping on. They know they're in a pinch right now. They obviously, operations they're shut down for the most part, but they are continuing with the transactions that are underway. So I'd say that's probably the big thing. Go ahead, Mike.
No, continue on, please.
Oh, so the other part of that I would say is, how are things financially? Now I know we're talking mostly about office tenants here. There really is. There's a huge chasm between what the retail folks are experiencing and what the office folks are experiencing. So tenants are reaching out to us. They're talking to us and asking if we can be of some assistance in a discussion with the landlord. So everyone is asking that question. How much, can I get some abatement? Am I legally entitled to call this force majeure and not pay my rent? So there are legal questions. There are sort of discussion questions. So really, and I'm sure that the other guys are going to speak to a little bit more to the landlord side, but what we're seeing tenants asking for, and of course happy to help with, is a little coaching. What should we be asking for? What kind of creative ideas can we put in front of our landlord to sort of get us through the next few months, if nothing else? So those are the questions that are coming to us from lots of clients.
Okay.
I would add more, but maybe I could talk a little bit more about the landlord side after some of the other guys do, because we're definitely seeing some things there too.
Sure, for sure. And Michael, I want to bring you in at this point. A lot of people in the news have been focusing on the tenants. This can cause serious financial harm to landlords too, if everybody suddenly stops paying, their monthly lease amount and that. So maybe you can tackle this from a landlord perspective.
The important thing, I think, from the outset for all tenants, because I do a lot of tenant representation work as well, is you've got to maintain a dialogue with your landlord. And if you go quiet on your landlord and you've got a problem, you're just going to exacerbate the problem. The important thing to remember is that, and I'll use the downtown office market, and we can all speak to that. Most of these buildings are owned by pension funds or insurance companies. and they all have shareholders. I'll use World Exchange Plaza as an example. It's owned by the BC Employees Pension Fund, who've already taken a hit. So not receiving rent from tenants goes to the performance of a real estate fund, and they all have dividends and life and retirement funds to pay out. So it's a cyclical thing. It's not just, you know, the landlord can afford to give it away or provide rent abatement. It does impact his ability to deliver proceeds of a pension on the other end. So it's a cyclical argument. The important thing to do is to remember that everything is done on a case-by-case basis. A landlord that you're speaking with locally, representing landlord X or landlord Y, doesn't really matter who it is, can only look at your situation and make recommendations going forward. Everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's doing that same thing. What's happening and what we're seeing is that tenants are asking for not so much rent forgiveness, but rent abatement. They recognize that they're trying to find a way to get through the next 60, 70, 90, 120 days, because most tenants, most companies, the roots are strong. They have a good business. They've been around for a long time. If you look at it think of it as a shrub, the roots are strong down below, but there's a bit of a frost problem up top, and they're just trying to figure out a way to get through the storm. So that's, I think, a way to look at it. Everybody's kind of in the same boat, and the rebound on this thing's going to happen, but you've got to treat the landlord as a partner in this. It can't be a we versus they thing. You can't just say, I'm not going to pay my rent. It's how can I help you? How can you help me? How can I help you? It's got to be a symbiotic relationship. And I think that's an important thing to remember going forward, because everybody's in the same boat. Have the discussion, I guess, is the message. Don't let it sit. Call your broker, talk to your landlord. Many landlords are reaching out to their tenants directly, simply because they know what's going on. All you have to do is look at mixed use facilities, and to Martin's point earlier on, the whole retail floor at could you imagine being the new guy that opened up at or was planning to open up Ollie Fresco's at Sun Life Center? I think there was well over $1 million in improvements spent in that location, and he can't even open. So I'm sure he's having a discussion with his landlord, and that's going around everywhere. So have the discussion, stay dialogue, don't go quiet.
Okay, Sean, I'd like to get you in on this as well. This really is unprecedented. I mean, all of you great guys have been in commercial real estate for a long time. This is creating potentially a mess like we've never seen. Help us to start looking forward a little bit on where does this go? How do we resolve this? And I'm not trying to jump over the fact that we've got a pandemic to resolve, but we're just focusing on commercial real estate a little here.
I think we're starting to recognize just how interrelated our commercial real estate community is. And we've been set up in the past to deal with us versus them in terms of landlord versus tenants, and contracts have existed to enforce exceptions to the rule. Everything is out the window now. I mean, certainly contracts do have a place and time, but we're really seeing that this is a community-based problem. And what we need to avoid is sort of creating a chasm between landlord and tenant. They're in this together. We have to remember that all landlords aren't, a lot of them are pension funds, but a lot of them are independent business people as well, who own assets that are important to them. So not every landlord is the big greedy landlord that the press sometimes likes to say. They are normal people who are just hanging on. And to kick the problem down to landlords of rent deferral or abatement doesn't really solve the problem. What we need to see here is everybody chip in. So we're seeing the federal government, the provincial government chip in. We need everybody who is a line item cost in the commercial real estate world to chip in. So that means landlords will hurt a bit. That means tenants will hurt a bit. That means banks will hurt a bit in terms of deferring mortgage payments. That means the city will hurt a bit by suspending tax payments. What I'm thinking will be the answer to this is everybody taking a collective pause on the payments that are owed to them for the next 6 months, and then amortizing that over the back end so that we don't create a great logjam of expenses at the end of 6 months, which a deferral does, so that we keep the businesses, whether they be office, whether they be industrial, whether they be retail, in place, because there are two prongs to this problem. There's surviving, and then there's being in place to recover. And if we set the stage where we're acrimonious and create adversity between the parties, and we diminish our tenant base, not only will that cause problems in the short term, it'll put us behind the 8 ball in terms of emerging from this and recovering, because we'll be wasting time backfilling space that should never have been made vacant. So I'm looking at it holistically as a community problem where everybody will share in the pain equally, and not just try and kick it down the road.
Okay, Martin, I know that you had a couple other comments to add here, Martin. So again, you bring that kind of tenant perspective, but I'd be eager to get your thoughts on this in how you need to, of course, be aligned with your tenant, but also work with the landlord to find a resolution to this.
So yeah, I guess what I wanted to say earlier is we've really seen most landlords come to the table with very creative and open-minded solutions for the tenants. So it's completely on message. Both Mike and Sean were mentioning this can't be an us versus them discussion. 100% agree. And I think that, with maybe like very few exceptions, I would say the landlord community is coming forward with solutions. So I did want to put that out there. And the other thing we're seeing from our US, of course, crosses everywhere. And the US folks are going through exactly the same thing. And the messaging we're getting internally as guidance is you need to, basically, landlords want to talk directly to the tenant. They don't want to talk to a broker. And the conversation that we should be setting up is more about, let's work together. It was the exact same verbiage that I think Sean was talking. I think both you guys were mentioning, but the concept, we're partners. We are partners. Let's work together. What can we do to work this out so that we both don't hurt ourselves through this process? So I did want to make sure I put that out there, that there's some, especially in Ottawa, some great landlords.
Yeah. And Michael, we'll start wrapping up here in the next couple of minutes. What kind of advice would you give to either a tenant or a landlord? What practical advice would you leave people with today?
It's a great question. I would, if I'm a tenant, I want to make sure that I'm fully aware of all the various programs that I can access that have been announced by the federal, provincial, and the municipal governments over the last number of weeks, and really get on top of those before you go to your landlord and say, what can you do to help? Because it can matter materially if you don't have to go for the whole nut, if you're asking the landlord for some rent abatement or pushing out some payments into the future. If you got a really good handle on it, because he's going to ask you for that, he or she's going to ask you for that. What else? What other programs can you access other than just me? So it's a dialogue between everybody, and landlords should actually do their own investigations as to what else is available for their tenants when they're coming to have that conversation. I think that's important because the various levels of government are doing an awful lot to help mitigate this problem for everybody. So we as a group need to understand what programs are available and how we can, bridge the gap, as Sean talked about earlier on. We're all in this mess together and got to figure out a way to get out of it. I just hope it's not 8, 10, 12 months away.
Yeah, hopefully not. And Sean, we're going to go to you for the last word. What kind of final thoughts would you have for in this very complex and delicate tenant and landlord relationship scenario?
Yeah, I echo the sentiment from Martin and Michael, and will seize upon the word relationship that you used. I mean, we're all governed by contract to a degree, but this is a point where we need to be educated and we need to really harness all of our people skills with empathy, whether you're a landlord and a tenant, to engage in a human conversation. Because this isn't about who's right or who's wrong. This is about how are we going to join arms and make it through this together so that we can prosper once again. So really, I would say to the good people of Ottawa, be patient, be kind, be knowledgeable, and let's look at the long game as we all pitch in to do this together. And this is not the time to be quiet as well. If people have ideas for the city, for the government, now is the time to engage your local representation and have your voice be heard.
Well, listen, tons of sage advice. There are so many business owners out there that are experiencing, as we said, a business challenge like never seen before. And certainly we got a lot of great thoughts from all of you. Thank you for joining us today. And good luck to, I guess, all of you three in helping both tenants and landlords, as we said, sort out this mess. Please stay tuned to Ottawa Business Journal for more videos in the days and weeks to come. We're eager to help local businesses. If you do have, I'll pick up on something Sean said there. If you do have any ideas for these videos, please shoot me an email at publisher@ottawabusinessjournal.ca, publisher@obj.ca. Thank you very much for joining us, and thanks to all you gentlemen. Have a great day.
Yeah, thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Mike.
Have a good one.
All right. Thank you, guys.